Good evening and welcome to the Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. I'm Madhavdas G. Viewers, the Epstein Quake has hit the British royals. There's been a huge development in the UK where the ex-prince and younger brother of King Charles, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, has been arrested. Yes, he's in police custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The allegation is when he was a trade envoy, he may have passed some documents to Jeffrey Epstein. He was stripped of his titles last year over multiple allegations leveled against him over his association with Jeffrey Epstein. He was arrested on his birthday today, and his arrest has now given hope to Epstein's survivors. He was arrested by the Thames Valley Police. Let's now take you through the suspicion that led to this arrest. Now, this is clearly a fallout as far as the Epstein files are concerned, where the ex-prince has been arrested. The first charge is of misconduct in public office. Charge number 2 is that he leaked confidential government documents at that point of time to Jeffrey Epstein. Charge 3, the documents were shared with Jeffrey Epstein, and there's an email to prove as much in the documents that have come out from the Justice Department of the United States. It's truly a fall from the splendor of Buckingham Palace. Let's tell you a little bit about Andrew Mountbatten and why this news matters. He's a member of the British royal family, a senior member of that, and the second son of late Queen Elizabeth. He was stripped of his royal title in the year 2025, that is of course last year. He's a younger brother of King Charles III and a close associate of Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, his pictures on the floor with what's believed to be or alleged to be underage women has of course gone viral, raising serious questions of conduct. In the Epstein files, the law now seems to be catching up with those linked to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Let's explain to you the connection between Epstein as well as Andrew. This is what we know. The reports, of course, say that Andrew sent trade reports to Jeffrey Epstein in the year 2010. In the 1990s, Andrew was introduced to Epstein by Ghislaine Maxwell. In the year 2019, Andrew admitted that he first met Epstein in the year 1999. In 2011, a letter from the private secretary shows how Andrew knew Epstein since the early 1990s. In 1999, Andrew visited the private property of Epstein as well, and reports clearly say that Andrew invited Maxwell and Epstein to Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Now, remember this, that even as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has repeatedly rejected these allegations leveled against him, even as he acknowledges his association with Epstein, a legal suit was filed against him in 2021 as well, leveling serious charges against him. We have a statement coming in from King Charles following Andrew's arrest. Now, this is what the king says. He says, law must take its course. The statement says that I've learned with deepest concern news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is a full, fair and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I've said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course, and as this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. It's signed, of course, Charles Windsor. Let's quickly open this up and take it across to our guest. Joining us with us is Samara Gill, a royal expert and a Talk TV presenter. We have Mark Brolin, author, joining us. David Sofair is the Republican strategist joining us from the United States. Ben Clinton is a comms officer of the Republic Anti-Monarchy Group, which is, of course, an anti-monarchy group. Samara Gill, coming to you first. Does this really come as a surprise, judging by what we've seen over the last months, perhaps years?
This is no surprise, but this is way too little too late. I mean, Andrew should have been arrested years ago. I have really big questions for the royal family as to who knew what when, genuinely. I mean, there must have been years of cover-up. I mean, the pressure that it's taken for him to even get arrested in the first place, his name on the front cover of every newspaper in the world for months, and just now they choose to act. I think it's really weak from the king, and I expected a lot more. And unfortunately, I think this will tarnish his legacy. Now, of course, this is totally unprecedented to have a former prince in police custody, but unfortunately, Andrew's behavior over the years, or alleged behavior, as I should say, does beg to ask the question, Why? Why now? And I think we'll get answers to those questions very soon.
Right. Mark Brolin, I want you to come in on this. The big question that many will have on their minds is that, while the monarch has some amount of legal immunity, the royal family members may have some exemptions. But in this case, it's quite clear that there was an attempt to make an example of him. He was stripped of his titles. It would have been untenable if, despite all that, the charges, the images that have come out, especially of Prince Andrew with what is believed to be, alleged to be, underage women, certainly, of course, his position was not tenable. And now the fact is that the arrest has happened on a separate matter entirely, and that is of, compromising his role as a trade envoy. Is this just an excuse? How do you see this matter, being pursued legally speaking?
Well, I think he has been, it's clear that he is institutionally toxic, both for the Crown and the government. But I'm not sure it has been that easy to prosecute him. He has been an embarrassment for years, just as was said before. So, of course, nobody really trusts him. But I think it has been difficult to build a case until now, when we have new revelations. We have now links to documents where he possibly has misused his during a time when he had a half semi-official capacity. So I think it's, in that sense, it's no coincidence. I think the timing issue is that he has no protection anywhere anymore. Both the Crown and the government has to stay clear from him. So that's why I think it's happening right now.
And let me bring in fact, Ben Clinton. Ben Clinton, your group, the Republic, has been speaking about the monarchy, the very need as to why it should continue. Do you think that these kind of incidents, at the end of the day, we all know the Prince Andrew had a certain reputation as a playboy, so on and so forth. But the very fact that he's now been arrested will once again, firm up such claims that groups such as yours have been making for years now?
Certainly. The thing is with Andrew, as Smart said, it rubs off badly on the king as well. It rubs off badly on the whole institution of the monarchy. And the whole idea that, Charles, William, close confidence within the royal family, knew absolutely nothing about these allegations, despite working with them for years and years, it's inconceivable. And we're already seeing a really big drop in monarchy support. If you're looking at polling that's just come out very recently, just before these allegations, we're talking about less than 50% of the country now support having a monarchy, and over 30% now support having an elected head of state. So we're seeing that gap really, really narrow over these previous months, where these allegations are coming out again and again. And really, I think what a lot of the public want is they want the entire royal family to be held accountable, because it's not just Andrew, it's the whole Royal institution.
Right. David Sofair, the big question, though, that many will have as far as the United States is concerned is that while in the UK there's been an arrest, we've seen several people in positions of power stepping down from corporates to responsible jobs in governments. But what about the United States? Because from President Trump to several prominent personalities, there have been serious charges that have come out of these Epstein files. Are we expecting a similar fallout in the United States as well?
Yes, absolutely. Here in the United States, we take these claims not lightly at all. You have to understand that President Trump graciously delivered the Epstein files in a safe way, and he released all of them. The previous corrupt administration had them in their possession for a long time, and a lot of the stuff's been redacted, and our first aim really is to protect the victims here. And let's talk about the victims. There's a plethora of victims that the administration is actively looking into who did what. And you have to understand that this is a Democrat, and in the UK, this is a liberal problem. Now, sure, you got Andrew is being swept up in it, but these are Labour supporters in the UK, and the Labour cover-up here in the UK and in America it's sweeping. So we have a lot to figure out. The monarchy is seemed in the in the United States as a positive thing, as a good thing. Of course, Andrew is a bad actor, whether it appears that he was doing insider trading and state secrets with Mandelson. That's being investigated in the UK now. But what we have in the United States is a lot of fallout and a lot of cover-up, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg now. But it's important when they are victims here that it has to be done in a responsible way during these ongoing, pending investigations. And again, for the viewers, it's important to know that Epstein was a huge labor benefactor, and it was a huge Democrat benefactor as well. So, and the majority of his people in his books were Democrats and labor supporters. Okay, so that narrative needs to change as well. You know, and we have to remember that the Republicans and the GOP vigorously took the files and put them on, put them in public, unredacted, and you know, that was a very, very good thing.
All right. So let me bring Samara back to the core issue, which is Samara, as you rightly mentioned, is the first time that something like this has hit the British royal family. What really has changed? I mean, there have been demands of groups such as the one that Ben represents for some time now. But at this point of time, given the nature of the charges, number one, number two, have things really changed? In terms of anything legally speaking that has actually enabled this, for the monarch to actually have to be able to act against his own brother. What's really changed over the years?
It's a really good question, and I think it's just all got to do with the fact that there is glaring evidence that Andrew put the United Kingdom's security at risk. He absolutely has, basically leaked things to countries like China, which are hostile actors, or at least it shows in those emails. Of course, we can't prove it yet, but it shows that he gave information about China, Vietnam, Singapore, while he was the special trade envoy and acting on the United Kingdom's interests. Well, he clearly wasn't. He was acting for himself and for the American financier Jeffrey Epstein, if those emails are proven to be true. So what this is about our national security being compromised by a member of the royal family. This is serious stuff. Only Princess Anne, his sister, got charged £500 in the past for admitting to some sort of Dangerous Dogs Act. It was, something really silly is what I'm trying to say. This is far more serious. And I do agree we should think about the victims, but unfortunately what he's actually been arrested and pinned for is more down the financial crime and national security.
That's exactly my next question, because what's caused a huge amount of outrage is the kind of photographs that have emerged of Prince Andrew. And they've caused outrage across the world, because the whole point is here you have a set of people that are alleged to have been abusing underage girls, teenagers at that. The point is that's what's the most outrageous, and that is what has caused these files and the controversies, to completely explode globally speaking. So do you find it a bit ironic that there's absolutely no action in that regard?
It's absolutely ironic, but unfortunately, Andrew has existed above the law for so long. Virginia Giuffre's family, Virginia Giuffre, who's in that photo there, obviously the most sort of outspoken survivor, someone who claims that she was abused by Andrew. Her family has come out and said, our broken hearts have been lifted over Prince Andrew's arrest. So that's one sort of slight glimmer of hope that there is going to be accountability for Andrew's alleged craven behavior. But yes, unfortunately, it's always the girls that come last in this situation, it seems. And, a whole book that Virginia Giuffre wrote was not enough evidence for the family to do anything about Andrew. It's come down to box ticking and files that show that maybe he, traded national security. So I agree with you. I think it's a very interesting turn of events, and it can see where the priorities of the royal family lie.
Right. Let me bring in Mark Brolin on that. Mark Brolin, quite ironic, as we've been discussing about the actual case in which he's been arrested. But it is very serious, because I'm referring to this email from 2010. It is, in fact, from the Duke, what we can see apart from the redacted lines. And it reads, two files. One of them is Hong Kong, October 2010 final. The other one is Singapore, October 2010 final. And there's a mail from Amit Patel to the Duke. And it says, please find attached the visit reports for Vietnam, Singapore, Hong Kong, Shenzhen in relation to your recent visit to Southeast Asia. And it's signed by Amit Patel, special advisor to His Royal Highness the Duke of York. Can you take our viewers through what exactly these reports contain?
Well, I think this takes to your previous question, the excellent one about what has changed. I think we have all that. That's why I want to point to something actually positive in this development. Andrew is not the first embarrassing royal in the history of monarchy. Actually, there has been many of them. But what we have now, we have email threads, we have photos, and we have all these kind of things. You don't get away with it in the same way you used to be. 100 years ago, it would have been an embarrassment, and everyone would have covered it up. And we had royals, and everybody knew there were embarrassments. And I think it's also a problem in when you have these peripheral royal figures. They have no.
I think we've lost that line there with Mark. Let me get in Ben on this. Ben, you know, that's a very important point that Mark was making, that 100 years ago, perhaps if these incidents happened, they would just be brushed under the carpet because no one would talk about it. They would look at it as a sort of inconvenient sort of embarrassment in terms of legal action. That was totally not on the cards. That's really something that has changed drastically, hasn't it?
Well, you could say it's changed drastically, but let's also remember that these allegations were being brushed under the carpet by the royals and the police even a few months ago. I mean, with the, I think about 2 years ago, Republic reported Andrews and the police over those further revelations surrounding late Virginia Giuffre, and the police said there wasn't enough evidence. The police said that they weren't going to take any investigation. It's taken all of these files coming out, and it's taken all of this public pressure and campaigning from groups like us to actually have the police take it seriously. We really, the royals have acted like they're almost above the law for hundreds of years and have done that until relatively recently. The fact of the matter is that they need to be held to account. Let's also remember here, recent reports by The Sun that's been going through the payments that were made to Virginia Giuffre to settle that civil case has implied that both the Queen and Charles stuck up some money for them. The fact of the matter is that the royals are colluding and covering up all of these allegations constantly, and they all share some sort of responsibility. They need to be held accountable.
And you know, the charges are very serious because, David Sofair, you know, Andrew has reportedly invited Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein to stay at the Balmoral Castle in Scotland. There's a photo of them relaxing at a log cabin. And during the 2021 Maxwell trials, jurors have heard the testimony that Andrew traveled on Epstein's plane in early to mid-1990s with a 14-year-old girl. And there has been a lot of speculation that has been sparked about the role of this individual. The question is, what about those in the United States who are also guilty of such, or at least charged with such serious crimes?
Sure. You know, I think it's also important for your viewers to include some pictures of the Clinton family. You know, I think it's very misleading for the viewers not to have pictures of the Clintons, and you keep focusing on Trump and Mar-a-Lago. He was kicked out. See, there's the picture again. He was kicked out of that club. So, you know, this needs to, you know, we need to reshift the focus and investigate, you know, the Democrat Party, which Epstein was a huge part of, and so is Andrew. We've got to look at that link in a big way. And, you know, we have to look at when we peel back the onion and see who is involved. And I think the royal family, now that there's this new information out,
well, David, it doesn't matter. If they're sex offenders, their political ideology or the political loyalty or their parties just don't matter. They're sex offenders, plain and simple. Whether they're Democrats or Republicans might be a local problem in the United States, but frankly, globally, anybody who's abusing young girls is a sex offender and a pedophile, and they should be prosecuted as such. It's just as simple as that.
Absolutely, and I think that Andrew will be prosecuted to the the very maximum of the law now that he does not have diplomatic immunity. All of his titles has been stripped, and for credit now, the royal family is doing the right thing and stepping up to the plate and really having him pay the piper.
Okay, let me get a quick closing comment from Samara. Samara, how confident are you that this case will reach its logical conclusions? Because we've been speaking to the victims, and the victims say one thing all the time, that the case has been suppressed for so long, they really fear that the global elite will all come together and will be successful in suppressing the case in whichever jurisdiction we may be talking about. What's your wager on that, Samara?
It's way too far gone for that now. Actually, thanks to Donald Trump being very transparent and releasing all the files, we are finally seeing people being held accountable for their alleged actions. Now, look, I mean, he was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Now, that carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. So we might see Andrew be locked up for life on these recent allegations. So it's really serious stuff. Now, hopefully the victims will get some sort of, repentance. But unfortunately, people like Virginia Giuffre have paid the ultimate price and have died at the hands of some of this alleged abuse.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. I'd like to thank all our guests for joining us. Samara Gill, Mark Brolin, David Sofair, Ben Clinton. Will there be justice in this case? A sensational case and a sensational arrest, nevertheless, and certainly it's a story that we're going to continue tracking right here at Times Now. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.